Hi, my name is Jason Elsgood. I'm a born and bred Aboriginal Territorian living in beautiful Larrakia country in Darwin in the Northern Territory. My company, Cross Cultural Consultants, have been working with the Northern Territory Seafood Council in the development of a cultural education and representation project aimed at fostering greater cross-cultural understanding within the fishing industry here in the Northern Territory. This is part 6 of a 6-part podcast series, and today we will talk about some of the challenges Aboriginal people and communities face in relation to employment. Aboriginal people face a number of unique and contemporary challenges caused by decisions of government and history. These challenges are faced by Aboriginal communities across the entirety of Australia. The first thing to consider is that prior to colonisation, Aboriginal people had purpose. Everybody had a part to play in their society, either involved in ceremony, production, education, and caring for community health generally. However, when colonisation occurred, all of these roles were deemed by the dominant culture to be of no importance, and people were told that they needed to become more like the dominant culture. That said, there were many barriers for Aboriginal people who wanted to assimilate into the dominant culture. Racism was a common issue during the early period of Australia's colonial history, and being black became a challenge, with Aboriginal people facing discrimination and exploitation frequently. When the missionaries and government settlements were established, Aboriginal people found themselves with purpose once again and had increased involvement in numerous industries for around 30 to 40 years. However, in the 1970s, the Labor government of Australia collapsed these systems in the name of Aboriginal liberation and replaced them with the current welfare system we know today. Missionaries were placed with public servants, and suddenly Aboriginal people had become the purpose. Aboriginal people's dependency, need and dysfunction became the grease which drove the current economic position, in which around $36 billion a year is invested in Aboriginal services. However, the participation of Aboriginal people in the system is relatively poor. This is further complicated by the fact that in a sharing society, kinship rules. Aboriginal people who have the desire and drive to overcome this intergenerational depression and become productive by a Western standard are faced with numerous stresses from their extended family, which make it more difficult for them to become actively involved in the mainstream system. That's it for today's podcast. I would like to thank you all for listening. This has been a 6-part podcast series for the Northern Territory Seafood Council's Cultural Education and Representation Project. To learn more, visit www.ntsc.com.au or check out the Northern Territory Seafood Council's Facebook page. This project is being delivered by Cross Cultural Consultants and the Northern Territory Seafood Council with funding from the Australian Government.